Medical Officer here at the County of San Diego. We're really honored to be giving this presentation today. We are going to talk in this next hour and a half about how we can care for ourselves and our team so we can keep doing this amazing work that you all are doing, that we all are doing, and how we can support each other, because really prevention of burnout and compassion fatigue is also realizing we're not alone, that we can lean on each other no matter what organization we're in, no matter what discipline we're in, and we can talk about things so that we can get motivated to care for ourselves, to create systems that prevent burnout and compassion fatigue, and understanding that some of this is just a normal process of what we're doing, and it's okay to take a break. So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference of burnout and compassion fatigue. Emily, if you don't mind going to that next slide. So I think one of the things to realize is that burnout is different from compassion fatigue. And the reason that's important is because there are different things that we can do when we're feeling burnt out than if we're experiencing compassion fatigue to help reduce it. And so that's why we want to do a little bit of distinguishing the two. So burnout is prolonged stress. It comes on slowly, and it just impacts everything. It's not just how you feel about work, but it in fact impacts your daily motivation. It's something that taking those 3-day weekends of, oh, I'll take an extra day off here. It's Labor Day coming up. Maybe I'll take an extra day off. I'll have 4 days and then I'll feel better. Well, 3 or 4 days, they've done studies that taking those long weekends are not as good as taking that whole week of vacation time. So it's great to take a day here or there. I find that I actually have time to do grocery shopping rather than eating cereal for dinner. And, all of that is really good. Maybe an extra workout in. But then after a day or so, you're like, I'm still kind of feeling tired. That's what burnout is, and preventing that is really getting those total breaks in. So if we go to the next slide, the effects on our work with this physical, emotional, and or mental exhaustion is you're just not feeling as motivated. You're not performing as well, and everything's just kind of Eeyore. Right? It's just like, oh, that's not going to work. Or, we're just not going to be able to help everyone doing that program. Or, that program, it's going to take too much time, or we're never going to get that grant, or look what's going on nationally. That's just never going to work. And it's also, as a mom of 2 boys, feeling a little irritable at home, and definitely feeling overwhelmed. So then what that can lead to is just not sleeping well and other physical symptoms. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at with burnout. And if we go to the next slide, the risk factors are really being out of control. You don't have any control on what's going on at work. You may not even know what you're expected to do. So you're working these heavy lift, these heavy loads. Budgets are going down. You've got more work with less money, with less help. And it's really hard to have a work-life balance, not even like I'm going to take care of my parents. I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to take care of, whatever I want to do, but it's stuff that feeds us. What are your hobbies? What do you do for self-care? It's really hard to find that. And it can lead for, more conflicts with others and things like that. So the next slide is really, well, how frequent is this? And unfortunately, it's really frequent, especially now. So just in a poll of folks just this year in 2025, 2/3 of American employees reported experiencing some symptoms or some type of burnout. And if we look at active law enforcement officers, more than half have experienced that burnout sometime during their careers. And again, burnout isn't just being tired. It's this slow, insidious fatigue, negativity, irritability, like just not feeling like anything's going to work, no motivation, and really not a belief anymore that the amazing job we do as caregivers as service workers is going to do any good. So I promise we're going to go to what we can do about these things. I don't want to leave you with that negativity, but we're going to switch to compassion fatigue. We're going to do a little breakout, and then Dr. Cynthia Robertson is going to talk to us about all the different things we can do to prevent these and to take care of ourselves. So as compared to burnout, compassion fatigue can start really suddenly without warning. And it's really it's a reaction to different kind of traumas, secondary trauma, hearing about trauma that others have gone through, watching trauma that other goes through. And because it's related, that compassion fatigue is related obviously to compassion and to trauma, it's much more common in folks that have that empathy, that are in jobs where you really care about the people you're serving. And that's how you help others with their own healing, right? Is because you care, they can feel it, they can feel the empathy, they can feel that someone believes in them, or that, if you're working with victims, hey, it's not your fault. You can overcome, you can be strong, and all of that healing. But it really starts with our empathizing with folks. And so with compassion fatigue, once we start to feel it, we can really feel guilt about not really caring as much as we used to, of not going all out, of maybe being numb or detached as our protective factors for taking care of ourselves. It's kind of like put that oxygen mask on. Well, of course we need to put that oxygen mask on before we take care of our kiddos, right? But there's that guilt about it. So if we go to the next slide, as you mentioned, some of those symptoms are just that blunting of our feelings, feeling helpless and like, hey, I keep seeing this happen again. I've cared for, or served or been first to respond to these situations so many times, and it's just going to keep happening. I'm not making a difference. And it can lead to that depression, as well as physical symptoms like the anxiety, again, the insomnia. And I, for one, I'll say, I have insomnia at times. And it's, I think, okay to recognize that and to talk about it, because we are caring professionals. And so recognizing that in ourselves and then figuring out what do I need to do about it, I think is really important. Again, some of that frustration or cynicism, but also, with that insomnia, some of those, as we have that secondary trauma of either reliving those nightmares, having things really activate previous things we've experienced or witnessed or that have happened to us, that really builds upon all of this. And so not only that sense of depersonalization, but I remember during COVID, when I went to my first talk about compassion fatigue and learned about it, hypervigilance is one of the symptoms of compassion fatigue. And my kids, I have two boys, my kids love to hide around the corners and scare me. They're a little older now, but even as teenage boys, they just thought it was the funniest thing for mom to like scream. So I've always been a little hypervigilant, but man, during COVID, like something would drop or a pan would fall or something would clank and I would just startle. And recognizing that, oh, that's what's going on. This is a symptom of compassion fatigue. Okay, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. It's not just happening to me. And here's things that I can do as a signal to, oh, I got to take better care of myself. So just, differentiating those, those fun scares of playing Nerf guns with your kids versus a pot dropping and startling. Those are some of the differences, at least for me personally, that I was able to differentiate between, oh, this is just Jen, I startle, versus oh, I really need to do a little extra today to take care of myself, or this weekend, let's not do all the things that I feel like I should, but let's actually go to the beach or take a walk or something, because I'm noticing that hypervigilance or that startle effect is creeping up there. Okay, so the next slide, we talked about a little bit already of who gets compassion fatigue. So we talked about how it's, folks who empathize, and we're so good with, the work that we're doing. The reason we're doing this, right, is we want to help others. It really is much more common in, I see a lot of social workers, I see a lot of folks in the DA's office and victim advocates and behavioral health workers. There's a whole section from Rady's Hospital here, all of our NGOs with NAMI and Jewish Family Service and everyone else. I hate to say names because I'm going to miss people, but I love getting to really understand who is here today. And of course, our first responders and law enforcement. So knowing that just because of what we do, we are at risk for this, and therefore it's really important as part of our job descriptions to take care of ourselves and our teams. So if we go to the next slide, how often does this happen? So if you, oops, I'm so sorry, I moved the slides around on you, Emily. Can we go to the picture with the yellow hat, the frequency of compassion fatigue? There we go. Thank you. Sorry. Talk about like knowing what to predict and, having some control over things. It's like, oh, sorry, Emily, no control there. I move slides. No one's perfect, least of all me. But the frequency of compassion fatigue. So 86% of nurses during COVID reported moderate to high levels of compassion fatigue. 86%. In some way, I'm surprised it's not 100%. And I think it probably would be if folks really understood all of those different kinds of symptoms and how it can really affect different people. And then 23% of police officers, it was a study of 1,000 folks from both US and Canada, reporting high levels of compassion fatigue. So I think, it's also educators is something that we don't always think about, but that's another group that really has much higher risks of compassion fatigue. Okay, Emily, now back to stages of compassion fatigue. Thank you so much. So the nice thing about compassion fatigue is that we can really detect those levels. So it starts like empathetic ability. We're in this job, we chose this, we want to help others, we notice other people's pain, right? And then number two, what's our response? Well, we want to do something to help others. Hey, I recognize you're in pain. I recognize this is an awful thing that happened. Or maybe here's the awful thing that happened ages ago that led you to do this, that then led this, and now you're in this really difficult situation. So let's go back and figure out how we can help. That empathetic response. But then we start getting compassion stress. And so working with folks with ongoing trauma, with continuing to, really feel compiled against compiled, that other folks' stress that we're taking on and feeling. That it's hard to compartmentalize, it's hard to get away. Oh, it's the weekend, but I really need to do X, Y, and Z to check. It's vacation, let me take my phone with me because it's a lot easier just to check emails every day when I'm on vacation than it is to come back to a whole slew of emails. It's just piling up. And then we get that fatigue. And so once we get that fatigue, we're starting to like pile on, hey, this trauma is reactivated from this client or patient is reactivating this old trauma, either from us or a colleague or from another client. And it's just starting to compile that we start to shut down. And so that is really what's important in knowing what's happening with that. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the effects on how we do our job. A study from a couple decades ago in Kansas, pediatric residents, so doctors who are pediatricians, who care for kids, who just got out of med school and have their 3 years of residency. When they're burnt out, and this is, it says burnt out, but it was also compassion fatigue at that time. When they were really struggling themselves, what the study found is they didn't ask questions of their patients that might disclose more symptoms, more things. And not like, can you tell me about your childhood and did you have any trauma? But like, okay, are you having a fever? Like, do you have stomach pain? I know you came in for this rash, but just that regular history that we take of, do you have stomach pain? Do you have breathing problems? Do you have any chest pain? All of those kinds of things. Do you feel tired or depressed or things like that? The more folks that scored, these residents, doctors in, training that scored higher on just that fatigue, they didn't ask because they didn't want to know. It would equate to more work. They went into this because they love kids and they want to take care of kids. But once you get to that point, you're not doing your job as well. And even they found that these docs discharged from the hospital, they discharged their patients earlier than they would have been ready, kind of to get them off their service. Even when a symptom like a fever or a new symptom came up, it was like, okay, yeah, you're ready to discharge. We said we were going to discharge you. In my mind, you're going to be off my list. We're going to discharge. And then in law enforcement, and we have the citations here that you'll be able to click on the links. In law enforcement officers, compassion fatigue has an impact on well-being, on judgment, decision-making in those critical situations. And so we really want taking care of ourselves will help us take care of others, and not just those in our family and things like that, but do our work better and protect ourselves from really potentially life-threatening situations, right? That's what law enforcement faces. So how can we be safe with that? So if we go to the next slide, we've got a poll for you. And so what we're going to ask, and we're not going to keep track, we're not going to this is not for any kind of study or report. And so what we're looking at, and really the goal is just for us to help recognize some of these symptoms in ourselves so that we know, oh, we need to take care of this now, and recognize it in our coworkers so that we can help support them as well, or in those who we supervise, and make sure we have situations that really support folks. We're going to ask, and if you don't feel comfortable, clicking the button, don't. The whole point is this is for you, right? You're here for you. Looking at these things, and the poll just came up, and the question is, have you experienced any of these in the past year? And so you can read through it and read through those symptoms, but understanding what is happening, how common this is, how we're not alone in how we're feeling, and therefore what we can do about it. So wow, more than half of folks have already chimed in here. Thank you so much. Okay, we're almost at 3/4. We're going to continue to let folks chime in. So far, loss of motivation and disengagement are the top two that I'm seeing that we're all feeling. So we've got more than half of folks, like 69, 70% of folks who are answering, and of course you can click more than one thing, are feeling a loss of motivation, and more than 2/3 are feeling disengagement. Thank you, thank you. And to share that I have the best colleagues in the world, Tamara just asked me, thank you, Tamara, you're being recorded, asked me if I needed some coffee this morning. And oh my gosh, I'm going on vacation in 2 days. So, of course I'm ready to take care of myself. And coffee from colleagues is definitely one of those amazing things. So we are still at loss of motivation is number one, disengagement is number two. But half of folks are feeling detached or depressed. And I know Cynthia is going to share, but if you're feeling depressed, if you know your colleagues are feeling depressed, 988. That is the number to call. That is our access and crisis line. There are licensed mental health providers 24/7 answering that. I've actually personally got to tour that myself. It's really amazing. It is important that we take care of ourselves and each other as much as we take care of our clients. And any way we can normalize this and say, you're not alone, you're important and we need you, 988. So thank you so very much. I see one more chat just came in, so I'm going to scroll down. Thank you, Dr. Cynthia. San Diego Access and Crisis Line, the regular number there, as well as 988 will take you in San Diego to that Access and Crisis Line. We'll go ahead and did you want to share? I'm not going to share the results. This is how we're feeling. I don't think we need that on screen. And so we are going next to our breakout room. Is that correct, Emily?
Yep, looks like it.
Okay, so we have a bunch of folks who are going to be sitting in on the breakout room. They're all of us, right? But folks have volunteered to sit in on the breakout room, ensure that folks have the question there for the breakout room. And if you want to talk, great. If you don't, that's fine. The breakout rooms are not being recorded. And just to, have a moment to talk a little bit more about what symptoms of burnout and or compassion fatigue might you experience yourself at some point in your career, experience in a colleague, anything like that. And Erica, I see your comment, and I think that's a really great one that I'm going to share with our county communications and our behavioral health team, that the general public could be much more informed that the Access and Crisis Line is much more than suicide prevention. It's really our licensed mental health professionals, or behavioral health, I should say, because it's for substance use as well as mental health, linking people to a variety of resources. Different than 211 in that these are all licensed mental health providers 24/7. Okay, so with that, thank you, Erica, very much for that comment. I really, really appreciate it. And we are going to be divided by Emily into breakout sessions. At the end of the breakout session, we'll come back together and your facilitator, moderator, will be reporting out. So you don't have to do any work. You can just be there and we've got you. Okay, thank you, Emily. Wow. That was really amazing. Are we all back together, Emily?
Yes, everyone should be back.
Oh, good. We had a group of 13 and so many people shared, and just the amount of courage and vulnerability and appreciation for supervisors and supervisors' recognition of, one person said, you just need to know your staff and know their baseline, and then you can recognize when there's a change and ask them, how are you doing? What do you need? Do you need a day off? Do you need a week off? And really figuring that out because one other person in my group said, sometimes it's hard for me to recognize how I'm feeling, but others can see it first. And so when they come to me and share, then it's really helpful for me to be able to take care of myself. So that was my group. Again, really amazing commitment, courage, and strength. And I see someone else putting in the chat, as a supervisor, it's sometimes easier to recognize this in my staff than myself, which is another reason for all of us to help each other. Any other group leader? I know we have like almost 10 group leaders. Anyone else want to share?
I will go ahead and share. I had a great group. And again, I just appreciate their courage and their vulnerability to share. But the team was recognizing that disengagement, that loss of motivation, which the concern was it leads to behavioral health issues and depression and anxiety. Some talked about the tension they feel within the team, which is a sign a burnout. And they talked about the conflict, and the conflict sometimes is the difference in communication styles and even culture, which I thought was a really insightful thing to understand. Many felt that it's been nonstop since COVID, and that drain. We had one share because of her work, just feeling like, they can't help enough, and that helplessness because of their role. When we talked about strategies or what they see that could help, I had many talk about I have an open door policy. I want to talk about the pressure. I want that to be an open conversation, that we're not going to hide from the uncomfortableness of the conversation. And one person made a really good point, that opportunity to identify what is good, taking that break and looking back. I thought that was a really insightful.
Thank you. I think, Emily, we have time for one more breakout leader.
Yes.
I'm happy to share.
Okay.
Oh, Ernie, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's do two more. Okay, we got it. Two more.
Real quick, and I appreciate the group I was in there. A lot of people had a lot of good suggestions. We ran out of time, but quickly recapping, some people felt desensitized, seeing kids removed. They said that culturally and personally, they were taught to suppress, so that it caused a lot of problems. We had somebody that worked as an eligibility worker, wanted to help people out, but I think because of the workload, they ran into people wanting to acquire benefits, but kind of at the end, instead of sometimes wanting to help people acquire benefits, they kind of took the other stance, and now we're looking how to deny some of the benefits. Another person commented on the housing situation, and seeing people lose their spot in housing because they didn't produce the proper paperwork in time, and some of them just gave up after time. So that feeling that they wanted to help that person, and then they see at the end that it went away. And then somebody mentioned the current presidential administration, and seeing some of the things that they're doing and how it's affecting what they do in their work. So they talked about a sense of loss. People have been working in diversion and equity, and that's kind of gone off the map. So that's created obviously a lot of compassion fatigue.
Thank you so much, Ernie.
Sure.
Okay, I'll try to wrap it up quickly. My group, I was popped into two different groups, but there was definitely the feeling of hopelessness and taking on all that emotions. And people felt that sometimes you just have to accept that you have those emotions and recognize them and feel them, as opposed to just suppressing them, as Ernie mentioned. But some of the tools that they used was having an outside group of people at home that support you, that validate your feelings, having spirituality, faith. Therapy was recommended, and somebody suggested a tool called RAIN, which was recognition, about to happen, investigating, and nurturing. And I thought that was just such a great comment and really appreciated my group. Another thing that they pointed out was having leadership really being aware of what their staff is feeling and trying to relate to that, understand that, and assist when they can. So I will turn it back over to you, Jen, but thank you for this wonderful exercise.
Thank you so much. And really thanks for everyone participating. Really, really meaningful and helped me. I learned some things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for us to learn even more from Dr. Cynthia Robertson.
Thank you so much, Jen. So we've learned about what burnout is. We've learned about compassion fatigue. We're going to separate them out a little bit. Let's talk first about how do we heal burnout and what can we do to prevent compassion fatigue. Next slide. Certainly, one of the most important things is addressing our self-care. We all know this. We know we need to take care of ourselves. We've been talking about it. Next slide. And we also kind of know these things as well, right? I mean, all of us know we need to be more physically active. We need to get out and walk. And I mean that literally, get outside. I used to tell patients years ago, treadmill is nice, but if you get outside, you see the birds, you hear the, you see all the other things going on. And that's so important because it helps reduce our levels of adrenaline and cortisol and stimulates the production of endorphins as well. So, and sleep, oh my gosh, we heard earlier, I certainly have troubles with sleep as well. And we create, thinking about our sleep hygiene, right? Creating a routine when we go to bed at night, try not to scroll that phone right before you go to bed, making sure that if you can't sleep, get up, get out of bed, sleep in a dark room. And if you're going to nap, try and keep those short. And then in addition, what does our diet consist of? Are we eating healthy food? We know where we're not eating the healthy food, but it doesn't mean it has to be 100%, right? It's all about moderation and doing our best to make sure that we are eating regularly and having some healthy food and that we stay hydrated, particularly right now with everything going on, with the heat and everything. So very important to stay well hydrated. Next slide. Well, what are some of the other things we can do to take care of ourselves? Humor. What a wonderful thing. Laughing and joking with others. Laughing can alleviate stress. It reduces epinephrine and cortisol as well and increases our dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. One of the things I love about our team huddles, our team meetings, is we always end with joke of the day, some dad jokes. And, they're kind of wall ones, but, it's fun. And I enjoy that. And I always leave feeling upbeat. And I encourage you to think about the same. Gratitude. Well, practicing gratitude is important, and gratitude can just be acknowledging things that we're grateful for. I was talking with someone in my family, and they said that they have little kids, and they said that every night at dinner, they asked them to talk about 3 things that they were grateful for. So I think even one thing, if we can think about something that we have gratitude for, it's certainly very important. And journaling. Journaling is a great way to acknowledge that, put pen to paper, write that down, and certainly can improve our psychological health, our physical health. It enhances our empathy and reduces aggression and improves our sleep. And then finally, addressing spiritual health. We heard about this just a moment ago. Someone had commented about this as well. And we know that people that have stronger spiritual practices, whatever is right for you as an individual, showed an improvement in their immune system functioning. They recovered faster from various illnesses. And it's not just about nurturing our spiritual well-being, but it's also about living well. And it's so important. Next slide. Supportive relationships, staying connected. It's so important that we stay connected. What we're doing today is a form of social connectiveness. But that we nurture these things outside of work. You can still hang out with the people from work. I have the pleasure of going to some baseball games with Dr. Tutor sometimes, but we also want to nurture and do other things as well. And so building those strong social connections can actually increase your longevity by as much as 50%. And again, it strengthens our immune system. lowers our likelihood of anxiety and depression, and improves self-esteem and empathy. So lots of good reasons to get out, get connected. And sometimes this involves pushing ourselves out, right? It's easy to stay home, and sometimes we have to say, okay, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go volunteer. I'm going to go sign up for a class. I'm going to join a club. But the benefits that we receive are tremendous. Next slide. So now let's talk a little bit about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a really, really powerful tool, and it's defined as being non-judgmental, moment-to-moment awareness that involves attention, intention, and a kind attitude. So when we do mindfulness activities, it's important that we set the intention when we start them. And that allows us to be fully present and engaged in the experience. Choose a quiet space, pay attention to your posture, be conscious of your breathing, and start gradually and take breaks. No one expects you to be an expert at mindfulness overnight. I certainly am not. But next slide. There are a variety of different things that we can do from a mindfulness approach. I'm sorry. Accepting and non-judgmental. Oh, there we go. Am I a slide ahead? I guess I'm talking from a slide ahead. How about the next slide there, Emily? Sorry about that. You could tell I'm tracking the slides on my side, and Emily's so good. She's just listening to me. I apologize. I'm not perfect either. You know what? So what can we do for mindfulness? Breathing exercises, meditation, and then there are forms of movement meditation, yoga, tai chi, mindful walking, guided imagery, and here comes gratitude journaling again. Next slide. Well, breathing. And many of you have probably heard about the box breath. There are other forms of relaxation breathing. The Navy SEALs actually use box breathing to manage their stress and maintain focus in high pressure situations. It actually helps to lower heart rate and calm the autonomic nervous system, lowers blood pressure. There's a wonderful book by Herbert Benson talking about the relaxation response. But I thought we would just take a moment and go through what box breathing is. Box breathing is pretty simple. What we'll do is just take a deep breath into a slow count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your breath to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you repeat it. Take another deep breath in. And if you continue this exercise over and over again for 5 minutes, obviously, if you feel lightheaded, weak, or dizzy, stop. Sometimes when you start a breathing exercise, it takes a little while to get used to it. But box breathing is a very powerful tool that we can all use. I learned how to breathe years ago, and I found that if I started to get a tension headache, if I was in a stressful situation, or if I was anxious about giving a talk or doing something, I just took a moment and did my breathing, and you'd be amazed how helpful it is. Next slide. All right, work-life balance. Okay, I'm on the right slide. Here we go. We talked about this a moment ago, the importance of unplugging, right? Turn off your work phone. Better yet, don't take it with you if you're going on a vacation or getting away. Take a break from your emails and spend some time out in nature. Enjoy some physical activities. Read a book. Reading is certainly a very valuable tool that helps us to separate from the things in our work. And I mean reading things that aren't work related, of course. Read a good book. Very, very powerful tools. So there was some research, you may have heard of the Framingham Heart Study. It showed, it addresses the importance of taking vacation. Men who did not take vacation for several years were 30% more likely to have heart attacks, and women who took vacation less than once every 6 years were 8 times more likely to develop heart disease than those who went on vacation twice a year. And we just heard from Dr. Tuteur the importance. That's probably not enough. We need more, right? All right, we'll go ahead and hit the next slide if we may. We're going to go out into another breakout room here. And the question we want to ask everyone is, how do you get motivated to do self-care when you don't feel like it, right? What might we do differently to motivate us to do self-care? So Emily will take us all out into the breakout rooms again, and we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about this. We'll see you back in a couple minutes.
Wonderful. Who would like to start us out talking about sharing some of the things that motivates your group from those discussions?
Yeah, I can start if I can. So our group had quite a few. One of them mentioned that they calendar and they journal what they're going to do to self-care. For example, they'll calendar going to the gym. So it'll be a physical, something in writing to remind them to do that. Another person mentioned running, which I also like because that's what I do. And they mentioned that, hey, no one is going to do anything for you. You got to take the initiative and do that. So running is their way to self-care. Somebody used the word of self-love, and basically that's another admission to yourself. You have to do something for yourself. And what motivates them to do that is thinking of the family, their friends, and taking an initiative, for example, making sure you're interested in talking to your kids and what's happening in school. Another person mentioned, hey, it's a part of their job. So it's that realization, it's parts of your job. You have to self-care in order to have that balance with life in general, employees, friends, and families. Another person came up with what they do is they have a list of quotes, like famous quotes out there refer to help them self-care. Another person mentioned and it is walking. If like you see a person that you need to work with, and a way to get to that person is, hey, walk with them, and you accomplish things.
Thank you.
Another person talked about chair yoga, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Excellent. Great suggestions.
I'll say,
And
I'll say some things.
please.
So our group was great. Of course they're great. Anyway, several things came up where they felt like if they were accountable to another group, like running or exercising, golfing, going to the gym and playing basketball. So if they were accountable, they had to take care of themselves. Another person, which was lovely, said that she's stopped criticizing herself, that she's now learned to have a little bit of grace. Another person was really about appreciating the little things, their children, their families, that really helped them. So I think, everybody felt like they could do more. And if sometimes they don't recognize what they need, but if their friends or their doctor or somebody points it out, then it's like, okay, time to take care of myself. Thank you.
Thanks, Camille. Others.
I can jump in real fast. So my group talked about all the things mentioned, but they brought some other good points. One, take it in small increments. It doesn't have to be this giant chunk out of your day. It can be just getting up and walking around for 5 minutes, talking to a neighbor in another cubicle to just kind of laugh and joke around. Just, take it in little things. Someone had a great idea for those of us who work with children, either have children or work with children. We're always teaching the little ones how to do self-care now, deep breathing, go outside. So talk to yourself sometimes like a little kid when you don't feel like doing it. Your toddler self is measured. So, hey, little toddler self, you need to go outside and take a walk, just like I would teach someone else to do. Leaving the facility is really important. So don't eat at your desk, go sit outside, maybe if that's all you do. Bring a friend with you or a spouse or a partner to just get out, right? And see something. And I think the most important thing, because we covered a lot what was already said in this, is asking for help yourself. You spend a lot of time helping all these other individuals, and it's okay to ask for help yourself and accept that help. And it can be things like respite care and other things if you're taking care of another individual at home yourself. But it could also be a call a friend and just have a great conversation and laugh. So there's what came out of our group.
Beautiful.
I'm happy to share our group. We had a lot of the same responses in terms of the 5-minute approach, just doing something quick to get the fresh air, or having a motivated friend. But one of the suggestions that I love is treating self-care like self-maintenance. We have a car, we take care of our car, we need it to work. So just making sure that we build in that time for self-care. But it's also, I also heard that sometimes it's hard. You have to plan for that self-care time. You have to have activities for your kids. You have to plan for your meals. So build in something, build in an activity that you want to do. Go watch whale watching, go to the beach, just do something visual, open your window, get some fresh air. But we had a lot of great responses. So thank you.
Lovely. I'm inspired, and I know Phaedra, who's probably right across the hall from me, is not going to let me eat my lunch at my computer today, but we're going to go out and take a deep breath, and that friend motivation of helping each
We'll
other
go
is
sit outside together at the tables
excellent.
we can see from our window.
Excellent. Isn't it amazing? See, it takes something like this to help us do that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Cynthia.
Thank you so much. Well, let's talk a little bit. We talked about how to treat burnout. We talked about how to prevent compassion fatigue. So let's talk a little bit about how do we heal from compassion fatigue. Next slide, please. So in order to heal from something, first we have to recognize that something we're dealing with, right? That's the first step. So it's important to know the warning signs. And I think, as Dr. Tutor mentioned before, we'll be sharing the slide deck with you as well. But make a plan, right? Make a plan now when you're healthy and doing well. What could I do if I get to that point? What would I do differently? So think about it in advance. A very, very powerful tool. And then treating yourself with self-compassion. Being compassionate, we heard about that already in terms of from others. It might mean setting emotional boundaries, reducing one's workload, letting colleagues know that we're struggling, and to address compassion fatigue, it's not about making massive changes. It's about focusing in and acknowledging what we're experiencing and then moving forward. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about self-compassion. Sorry. I'm a slide. There we go. It is the boy, the fox, and the mole. I'm sorry today. I'm a little bit under the weather today. So at any rate, so self-compassion, it refers to self-respect, self-value, self-esteem, and self-worth. And I don't know if any of you have read the book, The Boy, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse, or seen the Apple TV little short animation on it. But I love what one of the lines in that is, and it's shown here on the side. It's, "When you think of everyone you love," said the fox, "I hope you include yourself." And I would say that to you as well. It's so important and so crucial that we have compassion for ourselves. When we're talking in the groups, and just I know myself, we tend to be hard on ourselves, right? I wasn't perfect. I was on the wrong slide. I was late. Whatever it is, we need to be compassionate for ourselves. And this is really one of the key elements of coming out of compassion fatigue. Next slide. So, work-life balance, so important. And when we're at that level of fatigue, it's important to just reset our whole work-life balance and to prioritize self-care. Connect with your support system, your friends, loved ones, reach out to peers and coworkers and let them know that you're struggling, and seek professional help. So very important to acknowledge that there is a role for that. And next slide. And in terms of resources that we have, there are, of course, we all know that you can find resources at 211, but I've listed here some other great resources as well. There's a National Parent and Youth Helpline that's sort of a 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's the Cal Hope Warm Line, but there's also a law enforcement helpline. It's called the COP Line. And I called yesterday just to verify that that this was still good. And a very nice gentleman answered and told me that this is manned by retired law enforcement officers, and very impressed with their organization. There's another organization called Safe Call Now for public safety employees. Called that number as well, and it's still valid, it's still connected. So a great resource. And then we mentioned earlier about the San Diego Access and Crisis Line. I learned this years ago when I was doing volunteer work in suicide prevention that it's 888 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and 0 suicides. That's how I remember the phone number. But you can also call the National Suicide Hotline. And there was a comment in the chat about that the Access and Crisis Line is so much more than just dealing with when people are feeling suicidal. In fact, when I was doing some trainings, my mentor said that sometimes when he would come from a training, when he was teaching people QPR, how to help one another when individuals are feeling suicidal. He said sometimes it was very draining on him, and sometimes he would just call on his way home, the Access and Crisis Line, and kind of download. It's someone you can talk to, and just knowing that they're there is a wonderful and very powerful resource.